Hey everyone, what's going on? It is Walker Lott. I know this is a very different intro, but I wanted to kind of preface this episode and say this was an episode that we did back in April. And so a lot of it's a little bit outdated, but it's all about just the coaching changes of this offseason and into the spring at pretty much every school that we didn't cover in the last episode we did. This episode was done right before finals kind of hit for me, and the rest of the guys got really busy, so we never posted it originally. But we felt like it was still a really good episode, so we wanted to post it out here. So I just wanted to give you a little preface on that. So yeah, that's really it. Just wanted to preface this out. And this is also the last thing Waverly West has done for us for TXPS Media before she heads off to college. So definitely wanted to put that out for her because she's done so much hard work for us. And congratulations to her on graduating and the rest of all the seniors that have graduated this past couple weeks. So yeah, back to the episode.
Hello and welcome back to yet another off-season episode of the Texas Private School Podcast. As always, I am a quarter of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson. Walker Lott calls in from College Station, where Waverly West does as well. Ryan Schroeder calls in from north of the Red River. We had Sporkle on the agenda first. However, I think it's going to make sense to segue more naturally into coaching hire since we brought Waverly on. I think most of you
Sure.
can guess what the main impetus is for that reason. If you haven't seen already, Brazos Christian has hired the former Fort Bend head coach Jordan Black to be their head football coach and assistant athletic director. Waverly wrote a fantastic press release that I didn't realize that she wrote until somebody else told me, which is honestly awesome that a senior in high school is writing the press release for your school. So, Waverly, congratulations. I'll give my thoughts on the hire in a second. We'll all go through it. But since it's your school and you have more intimate details regarding all of this, from your point of view, the brief process as to where we are now, what went on there?
It was a wild couple, I don't, months, I guess. I actually don't remember how long it was since Coach Washington left, but we wished him the best at McMurray. He did awesome things for us in his 3-year tenure. And really, I think because of how well we finished this year, we finished obviously state championship of Division 4 runner-up. I think we got a ton of really good interest. I think that we might not have had if we hadn't had Coach Washington bring us the success that he did. And so I'm so excited for where Coach Black is going to take the Eagles. I am not going to be at BCS to see it, which makes me a little bit sad, but I think it's going to be awesome. I can tell you that every single guy who is currently on the football team is so pumped. They're ready to get to work as soon as Coach Black is in town. And I think it's going to be really awesome. Division 4, I think, is definitely a race that BCS will be in next year, even after losing a big senior class. But it'll be interesting to see if we, I don't know, get any transfers or what pieces come together with Coach Black. But I think it's a really good hire and I'm really excited.
Yeah, definitely so. That almost echoes my thoughts verbatim on the hire. I even kind of, alluded to it whenever Fort Bend and him parted ways that, I said this in a separate tweet that I don't know if the grass is going to be greener for Fort Bend. And because of that, I think this is a home run hire for Brazos Christian. I think Coach Black is a legitimate Division 2 coach. Even some Division 1 programs, I think he could lead. The fact that this fell into the lap of Brazos Christian, who's D4, will probably be D3 in the coming years. Again, people forget he won the 2022 Division 2 state championship against a fantastic All Saints team. Ryan can speak ad nauseum about how good that team was. Overall, he went 46-27 to a program that wasn't amazing when he went there, and especially when you consider the resources that the Brazos Valley is bringing in, the amount of people moving in, the increased demand for private school, I think it's a recipe for success. Walker Lott, I'm curious to hear if you hold the same opinion with your Brazos Christian hat.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. What's funny is, I wore this hat when we kind of found out something about this a couple days ago, and I wore it to school, and I was like, no one knows what I know, but I know, and so I don't know, it was funny. But anyways, yeah, I mean, this is a slam dunk hire if you're Brazos Christian, right? This is a guy who made in a span of 6 years Fort Bend Christian a top five program in Division 2. won a state championship, made the playoffs. Like I said last episode when we talked about this was a guy who made a program where it was a disappointment of a season if you don't make the semifinals in the South, right? In TAPS Division Two. So that's kind of the standard he sets for a program. And that's what he's going into the Brazos Christian. He's a dang good ball coach. Like that's what he is. He comes in and he coaches and he wins games. I'm just very impressed with the guy. Like this is a dude that Brazos Christian, he'll lift with his guys. That's what he did at Fort Bend Christian, where he led the strength and conditioning programs because he left it. And so guys like Jimmy Ducksworth and him would be deadlifting together because that's the standard you have to go to is him. Because if he can outwork you, like that's you know what I mean. Like that's the standard he does. So I think that's awesome for them, especially with the new weight room. I think y'all built what last year, the year before. It's gonna be a lot of things for him. I'm very excited about. He's going to be the Brazos Valley in the fall, so I'm definitely going to have to catch a game. Um, Overall, I think this is cool. And then I think it's going to be very interesting, right? Because um, as you know, Wes, I think Fort Bend was a little bit like a transfer city as well, like transfer town as well. Like there, people came into Fort Bend over the years. They brought a lot of guys in here and there, and guys who not just like for 1 year, but like multiple years through the program. Brazos Christian hasn't ever been that, which right because it's a small town. Every other D4 school, that's not really how it is. Besides the one that's won the past state championships the past 2 years. It's the type of thing where you kind of have to fight fire with fire, and you have a guy who knows how to contain that fire in uh, Jordan Black. So it's gonna be interesting to see if Brazos Christian, as time is improving, or as they're increasing in size and maybe goes up to D3 in the next cycle or next year. I wonder how that transition is going to go, is if there are transfers that come in under him, or is it just going to be the group of guys? Because I think the guys like Ty Urban and guys are going to have to step up next year are going to be good players. It's just going to be interesting. And also, since he already officially enrolled out, they're not going to have Cooper Murr next year. That's going to be a huge, huge loss for Brazos Christian, where they're without their 2-year starter at quarterback, and was going to be probably, maybe I want to say, I don't know if Consol has a guy, probably the best quarterback in Bryan College Station. I think maybe, and then going in his junior year. Granted, him going to Bryan High is a massive jump, and going from D4 ball to 6A football is a massive, massive jump. But well, I wish him all the best, and I think he can absolutely do it. But I do think it's going to be hard for him to replace him. But you're telling me a Consol or CHHS kid that is like a second string quarterback doesn't want to come over to Brazos Christian and play ball? I could definitely see that happen. So I think there's a lot of positives. I don't even see any negatives with this move. I think it's a very, very bright future for Brazos Christian.
I definitely think so. And the last thing I'll briefly say before I push it to Ryan is it's twofold. The first one is related to Coach Black as a coach. And back in the ancient of days when I played under, the kind of this master strategic tacticians, and I also played under players coaches. And as a player, having a guy that's a player's coach and really that can really not just motivate you, but understand you and not just degrade you, but meet you at your level and encourage you in that way. In terms of team morale, it's night and day. And I think you're shifting from a guy that's like that in Coach Wash to another guy that's like that in Coach Black. That should transition seamlessly. I think it's great. The second is related to your point in recruiting. I'll push back a bit. I don't think Black would be the guy to bring in a bunch of recruits, because I think what you're seeing now more than ever is it takes a village to put on these recruiting efforts. I think there are a lot
True.
of people in the folds at Fort Bend that really contributed to that. I think Brazos Christian has a lot of people that are very involved in their athletic program that could help with that too. It's just a matter, like all these schools are deciding now, to what level do we turn the dial? It's interesting. It's another incredibly interesting dynamic that's unfolding. I'm very curious to see, especially as the Brazos Valley grows in population, how that's going to materialize. And maybe they
Yeah.
can start with a quarterback. So that'll be a fun time. Ryan Schroeder, I think we've all had at least our 5 minutes discussing this. Coach Black to, I almost said Dallas First Baptist, Brazos Christian, your thoughts?
That'd be ironic. That's probably the opposite school of what everybody at Brazos Christian wants to hear right now. They just got him to go on their campus. Why would they be talking about First Baptist? No. That's a great hire. I mean, I know you talked about it for a second, but obviously Coach Black's tenure at Fort Bend Christian was absolutely incredible. It really was the turning of a program at Fort Bend, a team that clearly even this past year had its downsides, and then basically is able to turn up at any moment. Obviously, his connection to the NFL is another connection that people talk about, and we see that in multiple coaches, right? Obviously, the one I'm wearing on my hat, but other coaches throughout the entire of all TXPS having those NFL connections, having those college connections for the next guys, even at the D4 level, right? I think a lot of that goes into, guys that would want to go play for him because of the fact that he does have these connections with college coaches and that next level. There's a lot of different reasons why, I think prospective families and even prospective players are interested in playing for an former NFL player. And I think a lot of it not only has to do with like coaching experience, maybe, but also has to do with connections. And we could be seeing some new people pop up on the campus at Brazos Christian next fall. With that being said, but overall, I think this is an immaculate hire. If it wasn't already obvious for anyone at Brazos Christian, it's a great hire. But obviously, I think it's going to bring a lot to the Brazos Christian community, and I think Waverly would also agree with that. So I'm excited to see that. Sorry, I'm obviously very saddened for the people at Fort Bend. Obviously, they had a lot great going at that program, but next person that's going to come in is going to be probably another great candidate. Fort Bend's on the rise, and I know with the athletes that they've had, they've obviously had success, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon.
For sure.
Definitely so. It is very interesting. I think it's going to be, I hope that it'll work out very well for Brazos Christian. I think that it will. Let us move on to some other moving and shaking in the coaching ranks. Walker, I think you are most fit to talk about this first one, considering I think you have some personal experience with this dude that is now the head coach at Oak Ridge Christian, Jeremy Flowers. Walker, your thoughts on the move?
Yeah. So Coach Flowers was at Southwest Christian from 2017 to I think at least 2023. He was there for a very long time. Turned SCS from a team that averaged 3 wins a year, probably for a good 10 years, maybe less, to a team that eventually made the playoffs pretty much every year. Turned around to be a two-time back-to-back semifinalist appearance in TAPS Division Two. This is a guy that just revitalized Southwest Christian football into what do you know it today. And I mean, there's not much more I can say positive about this guy. One of the best leaders of men I've been around. Took me from a kid that I like playing football to now I'm doing a podcast because I love the game of football so much. Helped me get to a point that had me playing whatever for college football. Like this is a guy that I could rave about. Like that's how much I believe in this guy. I loved him being my head coach for 3 out of my 4 years. Like it's just so impressive what he did. Then after that, he left high school and not high school football coaching in general, and went to some more administration role at SES. And I thought low key, I thought he was going to be there for a minute. I thought he was enjoying his time, but sometimes that itch of just getting back into coaching is too strong, and that's what happened here. And now he's at Oak Ridge, and um, I think Oak Ridge got a guy who wins. Like that's the end of the day. He knows how to win games, and you saw that what he did at for Southwest. Took a team from 3 wins to I think the highest he ever had was I think 10 or 9. This is it's a just total revamp of a guy, and I think Oak Ridge has always been that team in SBC 3A that is solid but never can get over the hump, and kind of like Southwest from not being in the playoffs but being in the playoffs or that's good. He's going to do. There's going to be a guy who's going to get Oak Ridge into the state championship appearance in 3A. That's kind of what I see in this guy. And his first coaching hire was Ladanian Tomlinson. Like, what a slam dunk first hire you can make. So I'm very excited about that. You have Cole Worthington returning for his senior year. You have him to kind of be your workhorse running back. And if you know anything about an offense led by Coach Flowers, he loves a running back. And so Cole Worthington is going to probably rush for 2,000 yards next year. I wouldn't even be surprised. So Luke Dearman's back. You have some other guys. I think this is a very bright team. And Coach Flowers brought in guys too. He did not shy away from having guys here and there coming to the program that from around the area. And Arlington is full of elite talent. Arlington High, Martin, Lamar, Bowie, et cetera, et cetera. This is a guy that also is from the Arlington area. This is a guy who's in the Arlington Hall of Fame for high school athletics. Like this is where he started. So this is a guy who knows this area. So I think that's going to be a very, very beneficial thing for Oak Ridge. I could see success early. So, I mean, what a man, what a hire. Oak Ridge got a steal in Coach Flowers over there. So I'm excited to see where he goes from here. Yeah, very, very good.
Yeah, definitely so. I do think, to echo everything you said. Especially in 3A and SBC 3A, where you don't have necessarily established powers that you do that are Kincaid and EHS. I know Houston Christian and TVS have kind of established themselves there, but also I think there's a lot of room. We even saw Green Hill almost make a crack
Right.
at the state championship game. I think there's a lot more room for volatility, to use a nice finance word, in 3A, and I think Flowers is going to be a really, really good piece to plug in. And LaDainian Tomlinson's pretty good too. I think he'll do all right. Um, that's about all I got on that. Let's move on to something that I think is really interesting. Phil Dawson moving to be the head coach at Midland Christian, following him and Hyde Park parting ways. This is really, really interesting to me. So just some backstory, because I know not everyone is as familiar with every division. So Coach Greg McClendon was the coach at Midland Christian from at least like 2004 to I think like 2020, somewhere in that, like close to 20 years. Since then, after they went and hired Chris Cunningham, another legend of the game from Prestonwood, and they dropped down to Division Two. And even though Liberty was in there for 2 of those years, and it was pretty hard with All Saints as well, they went 6-5, 4-6, and 6-6. They underperformed, I would say, relative expectations. And the reason their district records were pretty good is because that district was one of the weaker ones in TAPS Division Two. All that to say is that now Chris Cunningham is back out of Midland Christian. They bring in Coach Phil Dawson, who wasn't necessarily terminated from Hyde Park, but they were basically like, we're going to go in a different direction. It's interesting. I don't know who else Midland would have gotten, and Dawson's a very, very good head coach. I think he'll do well. I don't know if I see a path back to dominance for Midland Christian here. Walker, do you think it's a correct assumption that I'm making? It's interesting.
I think you're kind of wrong there. I kind of disagree to an extent. If I for the longest time I thought that job was gonna be hired internally. I figured a guy or not internally, but at least in the city. I thought a Midland Odessa guy was gonna stay in Midland Odessa. You know what I mean? Like they were gonna hire someone in West Texas. But I think this is a slam dunk hire for what you could get in TXPS. I mean, this is a guy who turned around Hyde Park. Like turned this team around from I think they were 0-10 before he got there. Like that's what you're expecting of this team, right? To a team that had multiple D1 guys, could go and do all these things. Like this is a slam dunk hire in my opinion. They have talent. They have Division 1 talent over there in Midland Christian now with Rowdy Pierce and other guys. Like this is a team that's going to have dudes next year. I think for a head coach in Division 2, there's not a better walking in job besides maybe now Fort Bend Christian, right? It's those two are going to be the two best jobs right now in D2. Um, all they need is a quarterback. I have no idea who their quarterback is going to be next year. If you get, that's the thing about especially D2 and TXPS. If you have a top 10 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, you're going to go far in the playoffs. It's just going to happen, right? Gavin Parkhurst, Cole Welliver, Quinn Murphy,
Cannon Tune.
Cannon Tune, guys who make plays will get you far, right? It doesn't matter how. And so if he can get a guy that is just serviceable and not even serviceable, I need him to be good in Midland Odessa and bring him over to Midland Christian. You have a team that can legitimately make some noise in the playoffs. I think that's at least a team that can sit behind All Saints in that district and make the semifinals next year easily. So, I just need him to find a quarterback. I know of a freshman, but that's all I know. But is he gonna pull the reins with a freshman that I've seen on social media? I don't know. I don't think so. But you never know. TXPS is crazy. So
No, it certainly is, and I will. You were right there because I'm plagued by recency bias with Hyde Park, and they were decent but kind of middle of the road in D2, and I'd forgotten where they had started from before he got there. So that turnaround is impressive. There's a good chance Midland will be good with him at the helm. Ryan Schroeder, Phil Dawson, after some tumultuous times at the end of Hyde Park, ends up at Midland Christian. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Midland wise, right? Like this has been a team that could have gone over the edge multiple times. Obviously, was at the 6A level, jumped down to the 5A level. Teams have gone up to the 6A level in their place. Or I'm now talking about basketball numbers, but you can do the division. You can figure it out. Division one versus Division two. This is what happens when we do TAPS basketball state championships. This is all I think about for the next 3 months until we get back into football. But the idea is the same. Like Division one versus Division two, right? Midland Christian has now jumped the other direction. And I think Phil Dawson comes at a perfect time. This is now a time where Midland needs to be revamped. Like we said, they have the history to do it. They definitely have the history to do it. They definitely have the assets. I mean, if you go out to Midland Christian, you can see the facilities and everything, and it's just going to come down to, what all they can do with the players that they have in that area. Because people probably won't move out to Midland for football, but the idea is if you can take the public school prospects and whoever else in that area, and maybe, with the proper coaching with Coach Dawson, you can really hopefully build this team into a program in a district that is not as good as it once was, as what I'll say. I think last year it was a pretty dominant performance by All Saints. I think this is now a time where, given the right coaching staff, given the right athletes, you could not necessarily give All Saints a run for their money, but you could be the second best team in that district pretty easily if things go according to plan.
No, I completely agree with that. Waverly, we've talked about a couple of coaches that are outside of the division you specifically cover. I'm not going to ask for specifics, but any general thoughts on the moves that are going around the space, whether that be Flowers or Dawson?
Not really. Y'all obviously know a whole lot more than me, but I think the underlying kind of overall thought here is just that TXPS, both transfer portal and coaching portal, is crazy, and that it all kind of interlocks. There's always connections that come back into play, and Walker was talking about his old coach, and TXPS trades a lot more, I feel like, within itself, with players and coaches than necessarily with public school, which is sounds like what happened here.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's always, we get to the end of the football season and we're like, well, maybe that's the majority of what we'll have to do. And then it's crazy. I'm saying the portal basically opens big time after basketball. And we're like, oh, here we go, more content to pump out. But it's always something, it's never nothing. Walker, the last couple big ones we have here is David Johnson has been announced as the new head football coach at
Joseph.
New Braunfels. David Joseph, excuse me. No one ever accused me of being extremely literate. Replacing Coach Bronkhorst at New Braunfels Christian. I don't have a whole lot of info here. I think you have a little bit more than I do. Any quick thoughts regarding the plug in there?
Yeah, I think he is a guy that was internal. I'm gonna guess he's the father of Brady Joseph, the current quarterback, and Parker Joseph, who was the former quarterback. I'm gonna guess, right, because his social media has been there for a while. So at New Braunfels, so I think that's what it is. I think hiring internally at a school like New Braunfels is a good idea. I think it's a smart hire. I think it's gonna be very good. The other guy that kind of got hired recently is Rodney Dowell at Sacred Heart. From what I've learned, and it's not much, is that he is he's their new football head coach and AD, and he's formerly from Flatonia, Luis, and Van Vleck. Don't know much about it, but I do think it's interesting. I was reading the article from Crossroads today, which I'm gonna guess is the like that area's newspaper, which basically says he has a quote from him saying, "I love the small school atmosphere, and nobody's got it better than Sacred Heart," which is absolutely true. He said, "There's the stat here is very interesting, and it kind of makes sense. It says he will become the eighth head coach for Sacred Heart in the last 9 seasons. What a stat! That's insane." But I'm guessing at a Division 4 school like that, like hires are kind of constantly churning out, right? So it kind of makes sense, but it does suck. And I hopefully is a guy that stays there for the long haul, at least for a couple more than 2 years, like Alex Sadler that was there last year. So I wish him all the
I'm
best.
taking the under.
You never know. As the timeline shows, you're probably not wrong. So, but hope for the best. There's always good talent over there at Sacred Heart, and they always will compete in D4.
What I'm gonna say is what I said on I think a previous episode is just go grab Nick Angerstein. Make Angerstein the head coach. I mean, at
I
this point, it makes more sense than anything I could think of.
I don't know. They'll have the best special teams in D4 without a doubt. He'll get
No,
them
they
right.
absolutely will. Go get Nick Angerstein, and then have Coach Riley from Mercy Culture Prep be on staff, and just make literally
Right.
just make a literally just make like a special teams dynasty. Oh yeah, Ryan Schroeder. Ryan Schroeder will be I don't
I
know.
want to coach somewhere. Give me a special team spot. And you know what I'm doing every time? Every single day, 6 a.m., get on the field. We're kicking every single day. I never kicked in high school, by the way. I have no prior kicking experience. All I do is hate on these kids for not knowing how to do it. So me, myself, hire me. I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now. Special teams, if it's elevated in D4 better than the kids in D2, we're going to have a conversation.
There's
We're gonna have
good
to have a
kickers in
conversation.
D2. I don't know where you're making this
There ain't
up.
no kickers. There's no kickers anywhere. We're lying to ourselves. We're lying to ourselves. When we
Dewars,
think they're
Justin
good.
Dewars, previous Will Stone, previously
No.
of Regents, who is
No.
starting for Texas.
Okay, actually, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. I agree. I agree. It's a dime a dozen, though. It's a dime a dozen. The talent is not how do you say it?
I would go
It's not
against you, and
wide.
I would go against you, and I think the talent in special teams is consistently better than most positions in TXPS.
I would agree because like you always see guys who go as
Can't
like
say my
long
exact opinion
snappers,
on that.
kickers, punters. Like you see that a lot more than any other position.
Yeah, yeah. I think Ryan's just biased by
Dude.
the really
Ugh.
poor efforts that he's seen.
Oh, dude, some of them are bad, man. Some of them are bad.
You lost the bet from the state championships, guys.
Oh
I won
Boom.
the bet, and I
my
never got any
gosh,
compensation.
dude.
I don't know what we wagered on
Oh.
that, but
There's nothing we
it wasn't
wasted
even
because
close. It wasn't
I
even
won the
close,
pick.
by the
I won the
way.
pick record, and I'm sitting in my apartment, and there's not a single thing on this thing. Where's my trophy? Where's my trophy? Wes?
We've lost two of those trophies now, by the way.
No,
We're not good at
I
that.
won't- whatever.
You only get it if you win it back to back years. I'm still
I
the
have
only
two
two-time
championships.
not
I
back-to-back,
took a year
not
off. I'm the only
back-to-back.
one that has a year off, and I've won two. I'm like Michael Jordan when he went to go play baseball. I came back and won another one.
So you're not-
Listen, we can agree on the common fact that we both hold the esteemed title of TXPS pick record champion, whereas Walker, the self-proclaimed ball knower, does not.
Walker, how do you feel that you don't have two chips? I mean, me and Wes both have two chips. You have zero chips. How does it
I need
feel?
another ring.
I technically tied you this year, but you won on
Oh, not even remotely.
you won on point differential. So technically in games we tied, but you won on point differential.
Yo, check the tape. Yo, someone check the tape. That's not even remotely
How does
true,
he-
is it?
No, it's absolutely true. We tied and you
Yo,
won on
someone
point
check-
differential.
Someone check the tape. There's
Go
no
look it up.
way.
Anyways, back to the point at hand. That's what Sacred Heart, whenever they all graduate, they need to bring back Brady Haas, the Kutak brothers, and Nick Angerstein. Bring them all back and let them come back to Hallettsville and just coach for until they die. Like this for their entire lives and win championships in Division 4. That's my thoughts. A couple other openings while Ryan's looking at it and gonna see that I'm right.
I can't
Uh,
find this.
Bernie Geneva is a school that always has talent here and there in Division 3 is open. Interesting to see. Magnolia Legacy Prep is open. That sucks to see. Coach O was a good dude down there, so best of luck to him wherever he ends up. Trinity Willow Park is open. That kind of makes sense. That team hasn't been truly great since when I was in high school, so 7, 8, 9 years. And the other one, Fort Bend Christian, is still open. There's still the best job available. Going to be interesting to see how that pans out. We'll probably hear by the end of April about who's going to be that. You never know. It might be done by the time we finish this recording, and I have to come in and splice it and give my thoughts here right now. So, hey guys, this is actually me cutting in right on this part because right after this got announced, probably a week or two later, was the announcement of Ben Hoffmeyer as the new Fort Bend Christian head coach. A surprising one to be sure, but a welcome one to quote Star Wars. It was very interesting knowing through the process, not knowing exactly who it was, but in them landing on Hoffmeyer, who's been who did a great job at Brazos Christian back when we first started the pod in 2020. I think he was from 2018 to 2022. I think he was the head coach at Brazos Christian. So a TXPS guy, which is really cool to see. And he's done some other great stops. He had a stop at Bastrop, Jacksonville as a DC this past year, and now it's going to be the head coach at Fort Bend Christian. He also had a stop at Houston Christian University, HBU/ACU now. So really good guy, one of the best and most welcoming guys we had when we first started this. So a very good friend of ours. Very excited to see what he's done and what we've seen from just the spring ball, the media side. It's been really welcoming. So I think they're on a really bright direction. I think Fort Bend Christian is going to continue to stay relevant in the TAPS D2 conversation. I think it's a really, really good hire. I think he knows how to coach football. He knows the private school landscape. And I think he's going to be a program builder, right? He's going to be a guy that kind of gets involved in the middle school ranks and builds a true program that you're going to see down there in Sugar Land. So I'm very excited to see him. We'll talk more about it as the summer goes on, but I wanted to mention him and that Ben Hoffmeyer is officially the head coach at Fort Bend Christian. So back to the episode. You never know. But I also wanted to say one quick thing, and then we'll move on to some other very small stuff. I saw that Fort Worth Temple Christian is moving down to 6-man. That's sad. That is very sad to see. And
Counterpoint, I think it's awesome. Not because they're getting smaller. I just think 6-man football in general is fantastic.
you're not wrong. That's a good point. I just think it's sad because that was a program that was always really good. At one point, they were in Division 3 when I was in high school, and now they're in Division 4, and now they're out. It's sad to see a team on the, what is that, east side of Fort Worth go downhill like that. But go have fun in 6-man. You're going to be awesome. Have fun.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is this reinvigorates me to restart East Texas Christian Academy and go make a 6-man team that can compete with all the other 6-man teams popping up. One day that will be our we're gonna decrease our ambition for our coaching school, and we're just going to like all go to a school where we can literally do everything, and that'll be ETCA.
I was gonna say we could be like an English soccer team that's gonna rise in the ranks of divisions through promotion. We're gonna go promoted, and get promoted all the way to Division 1. I believe it. I believe it.
We haven't distinguished what Waverly's role is going to be on this team.
I do need a role. I feel like I'm being like.
Well, clearly PR. Now at this point,
That's a good point.
Clearly PR. I mean,
Waverly's going to be the AD. We're going to make Waverly the AD. So like she has to deal with all the angry parents and all the politics, and we just be like, so they're going to complain to us like, that's the AD job. That's not ours.
100%.
I'll do it. I'll get us the publicity words to get to D1. We'll get there. So
Waverly, your job is to deal with angry parents, secure funding for the program, and we'll recruit. We just need you to find the money to get the recruits.
If you missed the episode, we're going to recruit heavily, very heavily, according to Wes Tolleson.
Very heavily. We're going into Gilmer, Pittsburgh, Gladewater, as far south as Jacksonville. We're going everywhere. We're going everywhere to recruit.
All the way to Texarkana.
I know these woods. Okay. So
the Piney Wood.
That's another look back into our coaching philosophy whenever we take over a school. That being said, gentlemen, I think that we have covered all of the information we need to get through. We always start these things with about 4 items, thinking that we've got about 20 minutes of content in the off season. I look up, it's 10:15. We've been recording for 45 minutes. I apologize for dragging everyone on this late. I apologize to the listeners. Actually, if you watch this long, you probably enjoyed it, so I'm not going to apologize for that. But we will be back in your feed hopefully in the next couple of weeks with some more transfer updates and my status on Duke, whether I'm happy or sad, or I might not be here if they lose. That's always a strong possibility. But as always, barring any other further comments from the Peanut Gallery, thank you everyone for joining. Waverly, thank you again for coming on and providing some great insight into the Brazos Christian coaching search. As always, I've been a quarter of your hosting crew. Walker Lott, Waverly West, and Ryan Schroeder have fantastically been themselves. We will see you in the next episode. See you later.